Hello, dear friends, my dear audiences. Welcome to my TV show program, East to West, from East to West. We're trying to take a different look into everything that occurs around you. We form almost a habit to look into the story, to find the stories behind the stories. This is the style, call it character, call it whatever you may call it, but this is the way we want to do. Now, joining me is my good friend, my backbone kind of friend, attorney at law, the Honorable My Wild Cham. Sir, welcome to the show.
Thank you
All
for
right.
inviting me.
And you know that I invited you to come here with a very, very hot piece of cake, call it a hard one. And also, I'm going to play some hardballs with you today over the national biggest case, which is the Boston Marathon bomber case, the Garza trial case.
Okay,
Right.
I do my best.
Okay, so I called you 2 days, 3 days in advance. I hope that you did your homework. And by the way, you followed the whole thing, right?
It's just
All right,
out of
sure.
my interest, yes.
All right, good. And you know, my dear audience, this case raised quite a concern, not from the news part, from the nature of the case itself. So I have questions later. I'm going to ask him and ask my audiences for some answer. But right now, I would want my audience, my guest, Wild Cham, to give us a briefing about the fact that how you follow the case, how much do we know about the case, and the status quo, please.
Okay. The Tucker brothers were born to a Muslim family before they emigrated to the United States. And
From Churchill.
from Chechen, they were actually Chechen people, that's right, but
they're
born to a
Chechens.
Muslim family. And they moved to this country, and the younger brother was naturalized in 2012, attending the University of Massachusetts in Dartmouth, as I recall. And the elder brother probably was more emotionally charged in his own behavior. Actually, at some point, he tried to be a boxer. And appeared to be normal and hard-working students. But at some point in their life, it took a change, probably from reading or joining some friends about so-called the anti-American foreign policy as a result of the bombing or the American involvement in Afghanistan and some other Middle Eastern country,
I see.
killing a lot of people, primarily Muslim people. I think from that moment on, somehow they have felt there's something wrong with American policy. So they became emotionally anti-American or anti-American policy. And the only way they could do it is to kill more people in this country, and that was an
That's
unfortunate.
their philosophy. That's
Yeah.
their philosophy.
It's
yes.
just unfortunate, you know. They want to get a simple, straightforward revenge by killing a lot of innocent people in this country, including kids, which is really unforgivable. So when Jack called me to talk about this case, I thought, okay, it might be a good idea, but from the legal viewpoint, it's really rather straightforward. It's a criminal case, a federal criminal case and a state criminal case. And they are technically quite straightforward in a sense, first-degree murder or second-degree murder, whether or not there's any legitimate defense that can be raised and so forth. However, I mentioned to Jack when I came in, I said, actually, we may want to go beyond the criminal process or technical trial purpose and see how we can prevent this kind of case in the future.
Yeah, sure. Let's do the analysis, excuse me.
Yes,
Let's
and-
do analysis later.
Okay.
We just bring our audience about whereabouts of the case now.
Okay, but there are two criminal federal charges lodged against them.
All right.
One
Are
is
the prosecutions are on the winning hands or defense more on the winning hands?
well, the defense
Who
has
holds the best stick?
scored some points in the last few days. For example, they basically flustered a witness for the government about so-called the contents of the computer.
Uh-huh.
They basically tried to portray the younger brother in the computer that nothing but so-called very violent oriented materials they try to kill with criminal intent and premeditation and so forth.
Uh-huh.
And the defense attorney was able to bring up actually the same computer contained a lot of school assignments, homework.
All right.
Okay? In other words, you have not fairly presented the facts to the jury. And that's actually is not a good strategy. You point out actually the materials involving whatever the racial or jihadi issues is really a small portion.
Okay.
So that's one thing. And another thing is whether or not the younger brother was premeditated, like the elder brother, with that kind of criminal propensity to try to kill people all the time. And the defense was able to portray that actually the younger brother was under the influence of the elder brother. In a sense, it's beyond his control. It was like under quasi duress, against his will to go along with the brother. Those are the two theories they try to portray.
All right. Anyway, okay. So much is for the update of the case. The case itself, of course, we the people let our justice system take care of the part of the justice, right? So looking around, looking behind the case, though, there are lots of things so obvious that we are asking questions. Now, I ask you, do you recall as an attorney about the Timothy McVeigh case of last century during the late 90s,
Yes.
right? Okay, late 90s.
Ohio bombing.
Ohio, Oklahoma.
Oklahoma, that's right, the
Oklahoma
federal
bomb,
building, yes.
right? The federal building.
Got bombed.
He killed 168 people in one bomb, right? So did we take as long time as we do now to put him to death? No. The answer is no.
Yes,
right?
I think.
Did we spend so much of taxpayers' money to hear those bullshit stories? Excuse my language, my dear audiences. I do think there's a big B there. He says on his own note, when he was in boat with the blood on the piece of paper, saying, quote unquote, "We Muslims are one body. You heard one, you heard us all." That's a blatant slogan of revenge, of being a criminal mind at that moment when he committed the crime. It's not under any influence from any others, right? That's his own. And on the computer, though, you have all kinds of that slogan together with his homework, right? By the way, his school score doing so poor, he was literally doing nothing at school. And his whole financial plan was canceled down to zero. His attending the school was only a disguise to me. He did not go to there to learn, to disguise, to do the bombing. Otherwise, he would not go to take those shooting practice at the ranch. And he paid $179 for the rental of the German Glock and for bullets. All right. So he trained himself that way. He did it on purpose. So would the court would or would not the court recognize that as hardcore evidences? So your attorney, you are in court or in and out all the time. So you know how the court defines evidence as hardcore evidence.
You know, Jack, I really like you. You asked a very sharp and difficult question. Really sharp and difficult.
All right.
But
okay.
in the meantime, you also point to really the heart of the issue of the Tim McVeigh case and this case.
All right.
Tim McVeigh, he was anti-government.
Okay.
It's a domestic issue.
Domestic issue.
Anti-government. He's a U.S. citizen, just got really upset with the government policy. Okay? As a result of his army service.
All right.
Anti-U.S. government. Anti-government. That's all. Anti the U.S. administration.
All right.
However, the Boston case, as you mentioned, it's a racial issue between Muslim,
Anti-USA.
anti-U.S. foreign policy. In
well,
a sense, against another
sure.
religious
All right.
group. That's
Okay.
why the U.S. has tried to be very careful not to be allowed to have this case to be portrayed like it's a religious case.
All right. Okay.
So they try to be more careful.
Good point. Good point.
More
good
careful.
Point, good point. Good.
Yeah,
Very
otherwise,
good point.
if you did incorrectly or not subtle enough,
I would say
you will
are-
alienate,
Yeah.
actually antagonize, or even
I would say
upset.
that you are just making the extreme valuable point for the discussion. However, I respectfully disagree. Right. So, my dear audience, is with agreement or disagreement, the discussion continues. The more we argue, the more we discuss, the better pictures you see about everything. Right. That's the principle. You understand that. I said I respectfully disagree. It doesn't mean that, well, he's wrong or I'm right or I'm wrong, he's right. No, we're just talking about it. Stay with us, please. When we come back, we'll still try to find more. What is the relationship between U.S. foreign policy, quote unquote, and the domestic criminal act? Right? So there is something to hold on, there is nothing at all. So stay with us. We'll be right back.